CBS ran a puff piece about a mother who transed her young son, and let's watch a little bit of this.
Meet Ava, an exuberant, happy 9-year-old.
My turn.
Perhaps it's a bit mind-bending to learn that she was born, by all appearances, a boy.
Even before she could talk, she gravitated towards all the girly toys and colors. And when she could talk, she would say, like, "I wish I was a girl."
Her parents admit it was hard to process their then son begging in tears to wear a dress.
I feel like I'm an open-minded person, but when it's like your son, asking you to do this, and I think I wasn't thinking about her feelings at the time. I was just thinking about how are people going to react to it.
You were afraid, a little bit afraid for her.
Yeah, and I still am afraid for her.
But the North Carolina family, who asked that we not use their name, has learned to embrace a change they never saw coming.
If we continued to say no, you have to live as a boy, she would continue, she's young. I'm sure she would have done it, but we didn't want to be her first bully. We wanted to support her.
You like fashion?
Yes.
What do you like about it?
Just the way you can express yourself with it and how creative you can be with it.
And so Ava became Ava in the 2nd grade.
Yes.
She had to walk into her classroom and identify that, she had a new name and pronouns, and she was so excited. It was like Christmas.
Your mom told me a really interesting story about when you were in the 2nd grade and you introduced your friends to Ava. How was that?
It went well. They didn't treat me any different.
So now, are you who you think you should be?
Yeah, 100%.
100%. And that would be Ava?
Yeah.
Okay, a few things here. First of all, this boy is clearly not nearly as excited about his false female identity as his parents are, and as that weirdo journalist is. And remember what I always say, when it comes to these very young, quote-unquote, trans kids, every story is exactly the same. I mean, you could swap this out with 100 other puff pieces about other, quote-unquote, trans kids, and you wouldn't notice a difference. It's the same story over and over again. You have the helpless, innocent kid who's led down this path, forced into an identity crisis.
Hello.
We're told that he chose it, but he chose it when he was a toddler, babbling about how he's the opposite sex. He was a very young child saying incoherent and meaningless things, as all young children do. Oh, no! And his parents seized on that and used it as an excuse to turn him into this. And then you have the parents, you have the father who's either, it's always the same. The father's either physically absent or physically present, but absent in every other respect. And so here you have a physically present father who's barely even exists. He's this meek, cowering shell of a man, practically collapsing in on himself in front of us, sitting there stammering, barely speaking above a whisper, this spineless sack of jelly. His wife literally telling him how he feels. "You were scared, honey. You were scared." "Yes, I was. I was scared. Yes, that's how I felt. How else do I feel?" And then the mom, who's really orchestrating all of this, as always, the mom who hates men, hates boys, so she turned her son into a girl. The Munchausen mommy who projects her mental sickness onto her kid, doing it on the flimsiest basis, the same basis they always have. He wore pink. He played with Barbies. She is ruthlessly enforcing the most rigid gender stereotypes by insisting that any boy who defies the stereotype must really be a girl. She forces her son into a female identity because the notion that he might be a boy with more stereotypically feminine interests is apparently unthinkable to her. She can't even imagine. It's impossible. Not that you could even call playing with dolls or, whatever, wearing pink. You couldn't even call that a feminine interest for a 4-year-old. It's not any kind of interest at all, feminine or masculine. It's a 4-year-old. Being a 4-year-old, being curious, being silly, being confused, whatever. It has no deeper significance than that. 98% of everything a 4-year-old says has no deeper significance. It barely means anything. Kids that age will frequently insist that they want to do things that they don't even really want to do. My daughter, who's 3.5, she'll go, "Daddy, I want to play outside." And then I'll say, "Okay, let's go outside." As soon as we get outside, "I don't want to play outside. I want to go inside." It's like that kind of thing. That's a 3 or 4-year-old over and over again. That's your life, raising a 3 or 4-year-old. It's that over and over and over again. And yet, that confusion is taken and exploited, and that's the story that we see, and it's always the same story. And it's always tragic.